Select your player. Select match. Select match. Select match. Select match.
Alright everyone, welcome. It's the match you've all been waiting for. Matthias versus Dan in the Mario Kart 64 One Try Time Trial League. We're here in the playoffs. And these guys are going to get started soon. If you have not seen one of these before, basically these guys are going to be going back and forth, picking tracks, and they will each get to play the track at the same time, separately though, and the person with the best time on the track wins that track in time trials here, and it will be first to win 4 tracks wins the set, first to win 3 sets wins the match. It's all non-shortcut, except each player will get one shortcut pick throughout the entire match that they can choose to use if they want. See if they use that. So it'll make more sense as we go here, but should be fun. I believe Matthias has the first pick, so we'll be getting started shortly here, and we'll see where he chooses to take us. Alright, we are ready to get started here. Matthias has chosen Moo Moo Farm as his first pick. I'm going to count it down for these guys here. We're going to get started. So Moo Moo Farm, pretty solid pick for Matthias. He's been getting some pretty crazy times here for a one-try scenario. Moo Moo Farm's a bit different than a lot of the other tracks because you kind of have to play it a little bit differently than you would for like a normal time trial run. So these guys will be playing it somewhat safe. They aren't just going to be completely driving through the moles like you normally would for a PR run. But Matthias is usually getting really strong times here. Dan kind of hopping around a little bit. So Matthias is a bit ahead already. So Matthias up slightly over half a second lead already after lap 1. Pretty strong. Dan playing it aggressive, going through the moles, nails it. It's going to save him some time. Clutch play. Good call. You can pretty safely kind of get through that set of moles, so Dan actually shrooming through the moles, and he makes it too. Much needed because Dan is still behind by about 0.3. This is very close though. He goes through the set. This is extremely close. Matthias maybe with slight lead. It's extremely close though. Dan shrooms through the moles, but he goes into the fence. It's so close. And Matthias still takes it after all of that. That's Moo Farm for you. Matthias really strong here. 127.68 is pretty insane. Alright, so we're going to go on to the next track. It will be Dan's pick. They're just going to be going back and forth these picks. And Dan is taking us to Frapp Snowland. Guys are ready to go, so Get started here. They both A/B spin right off the start, both pretty good. A lot of what this comes down to is the mushrooms, but both these guys are very consistent here, so see if they play it really aggressive on the mushroom, or if they just maybe swing out to the left of the snowman that's going to be right there waiting for them when they land. Dan takes it left, Matthias goes between. Both pretty clean though. Still pretty even here. Matthias maybe slightly ahead. And Matthias with a 0.3 lead after the first lap. 40-37, really strong, especially for these one tries. Matthias missing a hop there, cost him a little bit. Dan definitely catching up. Not far behind at all now. Dan with a more aggressive shroom, but he bounces on the landing. Hits the snowman. He had a really good line, and if he wouldn't have bounced off the ground, he would have had it, but there's not a lot you can do when that bounce happens to really save it when you're already dedicated to trying to push for the inside line. So yeah, assuming Matthias probably won't hit a snowman here, as long as the stream's working for him, where he's able to hear the commentary maybe. And Matthias gets through just fine. So the snowman comes through to get Dan. Unfortunate. Matthias with a really nice time, 2:01:01. Dan with a nice lap 3 there. Alright, Matthias up 2-0. And it's back to Matthias's pick. Now, something to note here, these guys can't pick the same tracks as each other within the same set, and they can't pick the same tracks that they've already picked themselves within 2 sets. So track picks will reset after the second set. So for Matthias right now, can't pick Moo Moo Farmer, Frap, Snowland, but any of the other 14 tracks, fair game. He's going with Bowser's Castle. These guys are readying up. Now, Bowser's Castle gets pretty interesting in these one tries because typically in time trials, we use a ghost here that distracts a couple of the thwomps that track you in one of the rooms. So here we actually don't allow ghosts in these one try leagues matches, so these guys are actually going to be trying to avoid those thwomps, kind of swinging out wide maybe to avoid them, which usually works fine, but it kind of makes for a little bit different play than they'd normally be doing here. They both avoid those just fine. Driving up to the stairs, Dan kind of hits the wall. Not too far behind. Dan going for, really almost got a nice clip on the spiral there, but just barely missed. These guys are pretty much tied right now. Dan throwing in the extra mini turbo. So yeah, they're pretty much tied. Dan was 0.1 slower on the lap, but he did throw in that extra mini turbo, so they're still neither of them really making any mistakes that are costing them the race here. This is dead even. Both getting the stairs mini turbo. kind of wide, but it works. And trying to go off that inner wall there to get Yoshi turned around a little bit more. And Dan is just a little bit ahead here. Dan about maybe a quarter of a second lead. Dan having to go out pretty far to avoid those swamps. They almost got him. Dan misses the stairs mini turbo. Matthias hits the wall. So Dan actually builds up more of a lead, it looks like here. Like Dan's going to be taking this one. Oh, Matthias bonks the final wall, but wouldn't have mattered. Nice sub 214 from Dan. 2:15:21 for Matthias. So Dan on the board now. Very nice. And it's his pick. So these, with the fact that the picks that you can choose reset every 2 sets, Dan kind of has to start thinking, well, do I want to use some of my best picks now or save my best picks for the next set? So it's we'll see what he goes with. Looks like he's going to pick Toad's Turnpike. I think we saw some warm-ups from Dan here. He was looking pretty strong, so probably going to be a good pick for him. All right, this one is pretty straightforward. Just a ton of mini turbos around all these turns. So it's really going to come down to who can cut it as close to these walls as they can as they're driving around. Make sure not to miss any mini turbos. These guys likely will use their mushrooms in the same spot, but the turns are all basically the same, so you can kind of use your mushrooms anywhere. They probably will be using their first mushroom around the first turn on lap 2, though. So they're still very close here. Coming to lap 2. Dan, about a 0.14 lead. They're gonna fire their shrooms here to go in the inside this bus. Both clean. Dan's lead is growing a little bit, it looks like. Now they could pretty much use their second mushroom anywhere around any of these turns, so one of them might mix it up so that they are like on different paces so that you can't quite tell who's where. Dan is going to go ahead and use his. Matthias is holding on to his. So it makes things kind of harder for these players to determine how close the other one is. Matthias going ahead and using his, so they're back on track here. Matthias gaining 0.04, so he's about 0.1 behind Dan right now. Dan missing a mini turbo, so these guys are pretty much tied here. Dan's still slightly ahead though. This is extremely close now. Matthias is caught up a little bit. These guys are basically tied. Matthias might be slightly ahead, actually. Dan kind of hitting the wall there. Matthias definitely ahead now. They're both going to fire their last shroom through these cars. Dan hitting the car, though. I don't think there was a lot he could do at that point. Matthias had actually gained a bit of ground, and it was going to be hard to catch up with so little left in the race. 2:58 though from Matthias, very nice. It's really difficult in that last section of cars because you're having to squeeze in the mini turbo so quickly so that you can make sure you make it between every set of cars. So we go on to the potential set point here. It is Matthias's pick. See where he takes us. Now that he's up 2, so he might, you know, try to pick kind of one of his middle of the road picks. See if he can save one of his better picks maybe for the next set. Happens. Go with Chaco. So Chaco's pretty interesting. I mean, both of these guys are crazy good at Chaco. So this legitimately could come down to who gets good bounces off the hills that are at the end of the track. Someone gets snagged by a wall or something, and then just like that, Matthias kind of shrooms right into the wall. So Dan has a decent lead. Surprisingly, not that much of a lead, though. I mean, he's enough ahead, but you know, a couple little mistakes. Matthias still in it for sure. Dan missing a mini turbo kind of there, so there's something. And gets good hills, and Matthias gets good hills. Yeah, so Matthias half a second behind. Be tough to catch up for sure. And that first room really got him. Dan just hops over that hill right there, and Matthias slides over both. Pretty similar. Slide kind of risky for the one tries, but it's just like whatever you're most comfortable with. You're trying to make a whole lot of difference. Dan clean hills, Matthias bad hills, so he's gonna fall another 0.1 behind. Dan would have to make a pretty huge mistake here to lose this one, I would say. Hopefully no rocks in the way. The big boulders that fall down on this track are not random, so you're typically not going to be having problems with the boulders. And Dan going to close this one out with good hills every lap. Very nice. Really, Matthias's race was solid as well. It's just that first room got him, and that was pretty much all the difference right there. Oh, 3-2 here, and it's Dan's pick. and is taking us to Sherbert
Mad.
Probably a strong pick, and did pick up a world record here yesterday, so seems like a good idea.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So these guys are off. And with a pretty aggressive jump there. Matthias with kind of a wonky angle on one of those slides. Both going inside the first penguin, but Matthias a little bit too much and clips the wall just barely. He's gonna fall behind a little bit. Alright, Dan about a 0.37 lead, so. It's going to be tough for Matthias to catch up. You'd need Dan to make some kind of mistake. Lap 2, wide open. Ooh, but Dan bonks the wall a little bit. That wasn't quite as bad as Matthias's mistake. He didn't lose his speed, so Dan's still with a bit of a lead. But Matthias does gain about 0.3 there. Dan is maybe about 0.1 ahead right now. Not the biggest crack jump on that one though, so Matthias is extremely close. Yeah, Matthias is right back in it now. Both going outside the penguin. Dan barely ahead right now. Oh, this is close. Coming down to the final line here. Oh, Matthias takes it by 0.04 by a frame. And that's going to be the set as well. Super close race. Yeah, these just both of them kind of made a little mistake on the shroom, but on different laps, and but Matthias was driving pretty aggressively towards the end. So we will move on to set number 2. It will be Dan's pick first since he lost this set, and Dan cannot pick any of the tracks that he's previously picked. So Frapp Snowland, Toad's Turnpike, Sherbertland are out of the question. See what he goes with. Gonna bring us Mario Raceway. Alright, these guys look like ready to go here. Started. So the thing about Mario Raceway is especially for these guys, you're gonna have to do what we call the mushroom cut, where you hop through this plant and kind of cut the inside turn here between this giant mushroom and the wall coming up. Both of these guys hopping right through. Of course, they're extremely good, so no problem at all, but it definitely catches catches even the best of us every once in a while. Dan with a bad angle up the hill there, costing him quite a bit of time. He's now down by 0.42. Yeah, he got too close to the wall going up that hill, and it gave him like a pretty bad angle. And Dan also just clipped the wall, so losing a bit more time. Dan probably half second back now. Yeah, Dan losing another 0.2 there. But Matthias needs to make this cut. He does, and Dan does as well. Dan missed the mini turbo there. And Matthias looking pretty safe on this one for the win. Nice 128.16, which is pretty wild one try. Alright, so it is Matthias's pick. Dan seems to be anticipating a Rainbow Road pick for some reason. Right, it's gonna be a Banshee Boardwalk. Like to think that's part of the strategy. Hold him on Rainbow Road so that he doesn't pick it. Something. I don't know. Alright, Banshee Boardwalk, both these guys really good. So, you know, this could come down to the tiniest of mistakes. See if they throw in the extra mini turbo here. They do. And they'll probably be thrown in on at the end of the race as well. Sometimes people leave out. Dan getting a bounce on the shroom, but then sticking. So, not bad. Still pretty even here. Dan probably slightly ahead. Dan gets a 66 to Matthias's 73, so Dan just a little bit ahead. Oh, Matthias gets a pretty bad bounce there, doesn't get the shroom off early. Loses a bit more. Ooh, Dan missing one there, but kind of making up for the mini turbo. Yeah, Dan's got a pretty good lead here. It's 56 lap 2 to Matthias's 83, I think it was. Maybe an 81, but yeah. Dan gaining another 0.3 pretty much, so looking pretty good here. And it's a good enough shroom, and Matthias, pretty good shroom as well. But oh, but Dan bonks the wall. Matthias is right back in it now. Oh man, Matthias maybe with a slight lead. That bonk, and Dan misses the drift there. Oh no, allowing Matthias to take it. That lap 3, 41.48 ending for Matthias is pretty crazy. And Matthias kind of steals it after Dan was leading the whole race. It's a pretty insane lap 3 for a one try as well. We are going Royal Raceway. The Royal Raceway is a pretty straightforward one. These guys are pretty much playing it as they would in a world record attempt. So it's... Oh, Dan kind of going into the grass there with his backwards drift. Starting just barely behind. So both these guys going over the hill. Huge jumps. That's what you want to see. And both probably going to be doing a pretty aggressive mushroom here, really close to this wall. Dan kind of getting a weird line there, forcing him to maybe shroom slightly earlier than he would have normally wanted to, but worked out fine. So Matthias maybe just a tiny bit ahead, but this is still very close. Dan is a 0.22 behind. Both with pretty solid hill jumps there. Nice shrooms. Matthias maybe gaining a little bit more on this lap actually. Oh, now they're right back being about the same. So it's definitely close here. Dan with a little bit of a bounce there, which isn't good. Yeah, Dan losing only 0.02 that lap, so he's about a quarter of a second behind. Would need a pretty nice lap 3. We'll see how these hill jumps go. Both getting pretty nice jumps. Dan's was pretty much perfect almost. Probably gained a tiny bit there on Matthias's. Matthias is just barely ahead still, I think. It's really close though. Dan's trying to bring it back. Having a really nice finish here. Who's it gonna be? Oh, Matthias takes it by 0.06 with a nice sub 252. That's pretty nice one try time from both of these guys. Just squeaking out the win there. That is a extremely good one try from both of these guys. Both would be ranked 3rd place right in front of me. Or, well, Matthias's would be. Dan's is right behind me. But, yeah. It's pretty crazy laps here. Yeah, Dan pretty much losing it to driving in the grass on the off the start boost. Unfortunately for him there. So Matthias is now up 3-0 in the second set. And it's back to Matthias's pick. The picks will reset after this set. So Matthias can pretty much just go with whatever track he thinks he has the best chance on to try to close it out. And then they can all pick whatever tracks they want in the next set again. And he is going to bring us to Rainbow Road. Fortunately. Why he would do this to us, as guess we've got 6 minutes of fun coming up. Really great, exciting track. So both guys are going to try to stick to the ground off of that hill. Dan did it a little bit better. Matthias caught some air, so Dan was in the lead for a bit, but kind of missed one of those mini turbos, so these guys are basically tied right off the start. Anyone out there looking for a quick break, now is probably the time, because this could be a while. These chomps that they're passing are, as you probably noticed, the same for both of them. They're not random, so they pretty much are going to know exactly where those chomps will be. Don't have too much trouble avoiding them. Of course, depending on their pace, some of the ones on lap 3 might cause a little trouble. They aren't super familiar with speeds, but they'll probably be fine. Dan messing up just a little bit. Matthias has a bit of a lead here. So Matthias about a half a second ahead, a little bit more. Dan gaining a little bit there, so off the start, so that'll help. Being stuck to the ground really well helps quite a bit here. Dan's definitely not out of it. Matthias still ahead a little bit. Most synchronized shrooms here. Bump coming up. And going a bit wide on some of these turns. Diaz pretty much just holding on to that lead throughout this whole lap. And with kind of a few mistakes here and there. Matthias gaining another 0.2 top of that lead. Both getting a really nice stick right there on the start. But yeah, Dan probably would have needed Matthias to fly off of it like a ski jump, so it's going to be tough to catch up at this point, but there are some chomps at the end. Never know. Maybe they'll both hit the chomp. Or approaching the shroom spot here. Matthias kind of bonks the wall a bit. Not matter too much for him. So the next chomp here that they have to watch out for. He just swings around it. Dan goes on the inside of it. Matthias still with a pretty strong lead though. And ending the race finally. Matthias will be taking it. Is it by what? 0.7? And he is taking another set here. Alright, so we are on to set 3. The picks reset, so these guys can pick any of the tracks they've picked before now. Both guys still have their shortcut pick in play they could potentially use. But Matthias is now up 2-0. And we are headed to DK Jungle Parkway. Alright, so what this comes down to is going to be this ramp jump here. How aggressive they want to push it. Too risky and you could fall in the water. Both with pretty similar jumps. T is actually not even making it. Was just too far off. So yeah, that pretty much settles this one. Assuming Dan's listening to the stream, he is pretty much a mile ahead now. And Matthias frozen here. There's so much lag on DK Jungle Parkway that Matthias is literally frozen in time. Luckily, we aren't missing the most exciting race here. Let's see if I can try to bring Matthias' stream back to life here. Oh, Matthias died on us here. Now we have 2 Dans. Alright, well, while Dan is taking his victory laps here, I guess, we'll try to see if we can bring Matthias' stream back to life. And Dan doesn't jump off into the water here. Pretty safe to say that he won the race. Alright, so give us a minute and we'll try to get Matthias back here. I think he might have lost internet, so see if we can get in touch with him here. Alright, looks like his stream's back up, so get him back on. Alright, we're back. Got Matthias back online. Alright.
Option.
And explosively deleting his entire cartridge time set.
Select your player. Select
And let's see where Matthias takes us here. Pick anything, he's gonna bring us back to Moo Moo Farm.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Alright. These guys synced up again. The last time Dan was driving through moles and everything, and Matthias pulled out the win still. See how it goes this time. Both shrooming between the moles there, safely. Dan only 0.05 behind Matthias. Very close start. Dan going through the moles. So he's going to pull into the lead now. Oh man, Dan got over one of the moles, but the next one got him. So the mole hit is definitely going to hurt here. Need Matthias to hit a mole as well. Dan hits another. Not much he can do at that point though. He just gets through. 127.59. A really, really good one try for Moo Moo Farm. He is actually bopping the legendary Eric Habrick while driving safely around the moles. Pretty crazy. So, Dan is now picking Sherbertland. Be going there for a second time. Again, Dan did just beat this world record yesterday, so pretty solid pick. Matthias also very good at the track, so see how the one try goes. And with a little AB spin start, let's mount to a slight lead, and with the bigger crack jump as well. No major mistakes yet. These guys are pretty much tied. Matthias slightly more aggressive on the ending. Yeah, Matthias is 0.02 ahead. Synchronized mushrooms, and squeaking out a big angle there on the drift. TS gaining 0.11 there, so, and just a little behind. Goes big and falls in. TS likely going to be taking this one, unless he goes for a huge swag finish and flies off the track and fails it. I definitely expect a swag finish, or I think that should be automatic disqualification. No swag finish. Alright, Dan. Come on. Go big. No swag finishes. These guys have no swag. Alright. Yeah, it's gonna be. Alright. Tia's taking that one by a good 10 seconds. Not falling in the water. Certainly helps. 155 is a pretty crazy one try here, though. That is. Especially after knowing Dan had fallen off the track. That is a really good time. Definitely an easy top 10. Back to Matthias's pick. So that's the potential for the shortcut pick. He might bring us back to Bowser's Castle, though. That's what he picked second last time, I believe. But Dan did win Bowser's Castle. See what he thinks. And we are going to Krupa Beach. One could just come down to someone missing that ramp jump. These guys are very likely going to be doing a mini turbo into the cave. Can go wrong quite a bit in these one tries actually, so hope these guys make it through clean. Dan with a really nice start there. He's not too bad himself. Dan with kind of a bad drift there though. T is slightly ahead maybe, but Dan making it up with the better line. And Dan definitely ahead. And Dan about 0.3 ahead. A little bit more. Looking very strong on Krupa Beach here. Dan missing that drift though. Still gets the slide into the tunnel. Now these guys are pretty much tied up because of that. Extremely close now. Still looks like Dan is still a little bit ahead though. And gaining. Both making it into the tunnel. But, yeah, Dan gonna hold on there. $135.99. Nice sub. Nice lap 3. 31.77 is pretty good ending. Now we're 2-2 in set 3. Dan has to think, if Matthias wins the next 2, then that will be it. So does Dan want to pull out the Joker now? Does he not? Feel like he's got a strong non-shortcut pick? It's a tough decision here. Going to Yoshi Valley. Like the pick. So this one, it would be shocking if both players got through this track without someone hitting one of the spinies. And it's really going to come down to who can make it through the cleanest. This one's usually pretty exciting. Hopefully they both can stay on the track at least. Far so good for both. Lap 1, definitely the easiest. Pretty much dead in sync here. Dan is a little bit ahead. Dan about 0.15 ahead. Can they make it through? Oh, Dan tries to take it inside, but clips the wall, fires the shroom, still stuck. That is not good for Dan. Matthias made it through fine, and still has his mushrooms, so... yeah, would have to have some kind of major mistake. Dan had just a really nice first lap, so he was trying to cut it inside, but you have to cut it so close, and wall just pulled him in. He just makes it through fine, and down goes Dan. Not that it would have mattered at that point, really, anyways. So this one goes. It's the risk you take, picking this. Unfortunately, not paying off for Dan. Tias with a very clean Yoshi Valley, though. 144.20. Now we are on the potential match point, and pick is in Matthias's hands. Matthias might consider using that shortcut pick, maybe. Could be the last chance. He might consider a shortcut pick a strong pick against Dan, who really doesn't play shortcuts. But we'll see. I just closed out with non-shortcut here. Going Banshee Boardwalk, alright. Taking us back to the boardwalk. Right, Dan, a little bit more aggressive start. Certainly winnable to try to stay in this match for Dan. Tias gets a bounce, Dan does not and gets a really nice shroom. He pulls ahead a little bit. Dan is a little bit more than a quarter of a second ahead. Oh, Matthias kind of flying out wide there. Dan missed one of the Bat House mini turbos. They're almost in sync again. Dan just slightly ahead. And Dan 0.05 slower on that lap, but still slightly in the lead from his better lap 1. And these guys are really close here. Both good shrooms. Both making it clean through the Bat House. Extremely close. Who's it gonna be? They tie! They tie to the exact time. I can't believe it. An exact tie. So we will move on to the next race. Dan staying alive by the closest possible margin, being no margin at all. To do it on the match point as well. Dan really saving it here. So no one gets the point, and we go to Dan's pick. Yeah, Matthias once again with an insane lap 3, 41.42. Now, back to the situation of how do you pick with the match on the line. Dan is going to take us to Wario Stadium. Non-shortcut. Typically strong pick for Dan, but Matthias has been getting some pretty insane one tries here. So this could be really close. So this one, a lot of this comes down to being really aggressive on a lot of these turns, but in a one-try scenario, it can be tough, and this shroom spot can be really important. Who gets the best shroom? Matthias is definitely better, so Matthias is going to pull ahead. Both flipping around nicely on that turn. Solid. And Dan's right back in it, just like that. Dan actually ahead. He gained quite a bit. So, really solid section after the not quite as good shroom. I mean, his shroom definitely wasn't bad though, so got a nice bounce off the top. Dan gaining even more here. Really moving on the back half of this lap. 07 to 48. So Dan about 0.4 ahead. Really strong start here. Dan gaining even more here. Looking really good here. Shroom looking nice. Matthias going aggressive. Ooh, sticks to the ground. That's really nice. Matthias will gain a little bit from that. Should approach the flip-flop area here. Both go through nice. Matthias gaining a little bit. So Dan's still ahead. Hitting the wall. Matthias kind of missing a drift there. So Matthias with the 126.88 lap 2, pretty crazy. That is a really good lap. Dan, though, with the 127.08, so Dan's still ahead, but Matthias is pushing hard. And looking a little bit better over those small double hills. See what kind of shrooms these guys get. Dan kind of sticks a little bit, but yeah, shrooms were alright from both. No game-changing difference. Dan almost losing the drift there. He's swinging out wide. Matias hits the side. Still really close. Looks like Dan's still ahead. Maybe getting shaky here. But Dan is looking pretty good. Looks like he's got a bit of a lead. Matias going for the extra mini turbo to try to make up for it. I think Dan looks like he has it. Dan with the 121.39 to Matias's 59. Really good Wario Stadiums. We are 3-3 on the set, but it's Matias's pick. Does he try to close it out with the Joker? Does he feel stronger against Dan in non-shortcut? At this point, it's a tough pick. But he is up 2 sets, so we move on. Dan takes the win here. Alright, Matias has picked Frap Snowland Shortcut. Here we go. What a pick. Pulling out the Joker for the potential match point right now to take it. Dan, not much of a shortcut player, but we'll see. Both doing some crazy A-B spin nonsense. Matias is ahead though. What was that start from both players? They both were flying around all over the place. Matias ahead. It looks like Matias is ahead by enough to take it. Dan turning too early at the start cost him. Matias will take it. Matias takes the match. And that's going to do it, folks. Not sure what Matias's time was, but it was around 30 seconds. That's it. 3-0. Amazing last set, though. Matias saying that he accidentally did the start boost. Didn't want to go. Yeah, he kind of went flying forwards with the start boost. That was pretty unfortunate for both players, just kind of flying all over the place. But congrats to Matias on another great one-try match. Tons of really good races. The tie was amazing. Both of these guys playing really good in this league. Matias is going to move on to the finals of the bracket, so stay tuned for that. I believe that will be maybe next weekend. Not sure that it's been scheduled or anything, but we'll find out. But just keep an eye out for that. And yeah, again, congrats, Matias. This was kind of the big matchup of the playoffs since it was number 1 versus number 2. So it's been great to watch. The whole league has been Really exciting. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off here, you guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat watching. Thanks Matthias and Dan for putting on some good races as well. And we will see you guys in the next one.